nature plays out on the edges of China's rapidly expanding society. Many people do not think of China as a desert nation, but the country's deserts cover over 1 million square miles, nearly 27% of the country. The northwestern regions have always been dry. This is where two of the biggest deserts in the world, the Gobi and the Taklamakan, meet. The Ningxia and Gansu provinces are considered the Dust Bowls of China, since much of the land is sandy, dusty, or barren mountains. Mr. Wang Yode grew up not far from the sand dunes he is working on today, in northwestern China's Ningxia province. By the time he was a young man, all 10,000 of his neighbors had slowly moved away from his village, driven away by the need to find green vegetation. Mr. Wang is now chief of the Bajitan Forestry Center in Lingwu City. He has devoted the last 21 years of his life to holding back, and even pushing back, the encroaching sand. His crew has achieved some significant success here after their years of work. The anti-desert crews he directs are irrigating the land and setting up green belts to try to act as buffer zones for the desert. The straw checkerboards stabilize the sand dunes by keeping the sand in place and blocking some of the wind. This must be done before growing sand-binding vegetation. When vegetation grows in the sand, the roots and leaves of the plant help keep the sand in place. Officials say the effort has reduced the severity of regular spring dust storms, but in some areas, the grids become covered in blowing sand almost as soon as they are completed. Water is, of course, the key to sustaining people in these areas. The region averages only about 250 millimeters of precipitation per year, and it evaporates 6 times faster than it falls. In Yanqi County, authorities are actually paying farmers to plant hardy drought-resistant plants like the Ningqiao here. These plants can survive with very little water. They get extra incentives if the plants reseed and continue to grow. China has planted thousands of acres of vegetation to stop the spread of deserts in its north and west. At the Laboratory of Desert and Desertification in Lanzhou, researchers study and simulate the forces that shape and change the deserts. In the town of Dunhuang, an historic oasis town along the ancient Silk Road, massive sand dunes loom hundreds of meters above, like a mountain range made of sand. The sands of the Singing Dunes shift and flow with the wind, and may one day cover the town. Scientists are collecting data on the wind patterns and the movements of the dunes, hoping to learn as much as they can about their patterns of movement. If people are going to push further into the deserts to try to make them livable, they will find an uphill battle. For now, they are hoping that life can gain a foothold in the sand, and eventually turn it green.